What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. Today we are going to be diving into essential gear for new videographers. First up, we have the obvious, a camera. I know when I was first looking for a camera, I spent hours looking through specs, looking at different cameras, price points, and of course, I'm sure you're doing the same thing right now. Now, of course, the camera that you're looking to buy is going to be dependent on your price point. What you're looking for in a camera for a videographer is actually going to be different than what you're looking for a camera for a photographer. I personally use the Sony a7S III, which is a hybrid photo video camera and debatably one of the best hybrid photo video cameras that's come out in the last 4 years. However, that being said, it does come with a price tag, so let's look into some cheaper options. Personally, even not having the a7S III, I am a Sony person through and through. My very first camera was a Sony a7 III. Now I have the a7S III, I've had the a7 IV, I've had the a7S II. They're all beasts of cameras. The first thing I look for when I'm looking for a camera is full frame. Basically what full frame is, if you don't know already, is the size of your sensor within your camera. So a full frame is exactly what the lens is seeing with no cropping ratio to it. Buying full sensor cameras can be a little bit on the pricier side, whereas your APS-C cameras are going to be a little bit cheaper for video particularly. However, I really think that it is worth it because I shoot in low light situations a lot. If you're shooting any concerts, indoor videography, you're really going to want something that lets in as much light as possible, which that full frame sensor is going to do. There are a ton of full frame cameras that Sony creates as well as other brands, but for this case scenario, we're talking about Sony. You can get one for under $1,000 used at this point in good condition. Just got to do your research again as to which one you're looking for. And the next thing after sensor size that you should be looking into for your camera is frame rates. Frame rates are basically going to let you know how much you can slow your footage down. So if you are getting into a camera that's capable of shooting 4K 60 frames per second, that means at 4K you can slow your footage down 2 times. I would say you at least want to get something that is shooting 60 frames per second because realistically with any type of videography, you're going to need to slow down your footage at some point or another. I don't think that there's one video I've done in the last year where I haven't used slow motion, at least for the B-roll portion of the videos that I do. But I would really suggest at the very bare minimum getting a camera that shoots 4K 60 frames per second. And the last topic I'll cover as far as cameras and what you should be looking for in your camera as a videographer is, does it shoot log footage? So Sony shoots S-Log. They'll do S-Log 3 or S-Log 2 depending on the camera that you purchase. Now there's plenty of other things that you can look for within cameras as far as color profiles and stuff like that. You guys don't need to know about any of that stuff right now. If it shoots in log footage, you shoot 60 frames per second in 4K, and you have a full frame sensor, your videos are going to look very sharp and nice. Section 2, lenses. In the beginning, you're going to want to get some type of zoom lens, something that is a variable focal length, so that way you don't have to swap lenses, purchase a bunch of lenses, or waste any money on focal lengths you might not use. My suggestion to anybody, photographer or videographer, in the beginning is getting a 24-70 lens. I'm shooting on the Sigma Art 24-70 lens, but you can find ones that are half the price that are 24-70 lenses. That's just a perfect focal length. Where 24, you can kind of get your wide area shots. 70, you really get those nice close-up detail shots. It's just a perfect mid-range focal length. Now, of course, this does come down to use case, whereas if you're a sports photographer, you might want to go with something closer to like a 70-200 or even pushing it up to like the 300 range focal length, just so that way you can get those nice close-up sports action shots. And then on the other end of it, if you're like a real estate photographer, then you'll want to get something closer to a 12 or a 14 millimeter, so that way you can get those nice wide interior shots. We could go into lenses all day long, but I really think if you're just starting out, get something similar to the 24-70 or something around that range, and ideally get this in f2.8. A lot of these lenses that are 24-70 come in f4, which is totally fine, but again, we really want to gear ourselves and equip ourselves for low light situations, and having an aperture that's as low as f2.8 is going to let as much light as possible into the lens. Section 3, stabilizers or gimbals. I use the DJI Ronin RS3, which is an absolutely amazing gimbal, but I came in at a more entry-level gimbal as well, where you can get a gimbal at this point used in good condition for 200 bucks. I think I sold my last gimbal, just regular Ronin S, for $150, and it was still working just fine. Invest in a gimbal early on, guys. This is a very cheap thing that sets you apart. Everywhere I show up with my gimbal, my camera, and my monitor on the back, people look at me like, this guy's got something going on, for sure. So I would definitely recommend getting a gimbal. Basically what a gimbal is gonna do, if you don't know already, is just really stabilize your footage. I use a gimbal for basically every shoot that I'm doing because handheld just gets a little bit bumpy, and those nice, smooth, long gimbal shots you can speed ramp through, make super cool and dynamic shots, and it just makes your life so much easier in editing to have these nice, smooth shots that you can transition between. So again, we won't go super in-depth as to all the different gimbals you can get because there's a ton of them out there at this point. However, the one thing you're really gonna wanna look for a gimbal is payload. Payload is basically gonna be how much weight can the gimbal take. You want to get something that's at least 4 pounds because we are using a little bit bigger cameras here as videographers. We're not using phones to try and videotape stuff, and if you are, there's phone gimbals dedicated for that. But you want a gimbal that can at least do 4 to 5 pounds so that way it can support your lens and your camera properly without shaking too much. Section 4, lighting. So I've acquired quite a few lights through my videography career. I have like a larger aperture kind of light now, and I also have light panels, which is what I started with, is these type of light panels. You can put batteries on the back, they're adjustable in color. These ones particularly go any different color, pattern that you want. You adjust the brightness from your phone, you can do everything remote. It also does come with a power cord along with batteries that you're able to plug it in. The battery life is actually pretty long on these things, so it lasts quite a while. The other panel I have right now, I'm actually using to light myself. And this is only at 60% power, so these things work very well. You always want to show up with some type of lighting to your shoots, mainly because you never know what your shoots are going to entail as far as lighting. You want to be able to control stuff as much as possible. So if you walk into a place and it's super, super dark, tungsten orange lighting, and it's just not looking good in camera, you can even tell the person that you're shooting for, hey, let's go ahead and cut these lights off, and I've brought my own setup so that way we can make this look really nice and professional. Lighting is going to be great for stuff like interviews, lighting dark spaces that you're doing videography for, anything indoor. I use lights often. I bounce them off the ceilings, bounce them off the walls, just so that way I can get a little bit extra light. These ones are great too because they do come with these barn doors, which allow you to direct the light where you want. So if I want to keep it kind of shut like that in a box, it's just going to go directly at you. If I want to open them up like that, we're going to have a nice wide angle of light that's basically going to fill this entire room. As far as lighting goes, there's a million options out there that you can get. This one is a GVM light panel. I believe I picked these up for about $250 on Amazon. I've used them my entire career up until this point, and man, I do not regret that purchase at all. You could probably even find them used in your area for around $125 if you just look on Marketplace or wherever you're purchasing your used stuff. Then as you start getting a little bit further and a little bit deeper, you can go into things like getting light tubes, aperture lights, sky panels, stuff like that, but that's all like large production stuff. Right now, we're just talking about what you need as a beginner videographer. Section 5, drones. Now I use the DJI Mavic Air 2, and this thing has been absolutely awesome to me. I have had this same drone my entire career, and that's been about 4 years that I've been doing this full time with that drone, and I mean, I've crashed it a couple of times, swapped out some propellers. It's still doing its thing to this day, and it's showing no signs of letting up anytime soon. Mine particularly shoots 4x slow motion as well, and shoots 4K, not at the same time unfortunately, but it is a beast of a drone for what it does. I got this drone for about $1,100 brand new. However, since I purchased it about 4 or 5 years ago when it was new, the price has dropped down significantly, and again, you can go and pick yourself up a used one of these these, I think for under 500 bucks at this point. The first thing I will look for when looking for a drone is, does it shoot slow motion? Again, mine does shoot 120 frames per second. Now for even cheaper, you can even go and get like a DJI Mini 3 or a DJI Mini 2, which I know a ton of videographers that use those particular drones, and those things are absolutely amazing as well. They also shoot 60 frames per second, 4K, and what's awesome about the new Mini is that it actually shoots vertical too, which is something I've always ran into, is having to crop my drone footage so that way I can cut it into vertical reels, which just chops the quality in a third, quite literally. So looking for something that shoots vertically and shoots slow motion is very essential. You also want something that ideally has a decent amount of battery life, which is the only downfall with the Minis, is that the batteries just aren't very big. I think you can only fly them for about 10 to 15 minutes before you have to swap the battery out. So I would also suggest getting the Fly More package, which includes 2 extra batteries and a charging port, I think, for all of them. Section 6, microphones. So at the very least, when you're getting into a microphone, you can get something like this, which is a Rode shotgun mic that you just stick right on the top of your camera there, for under 100 bucks. And these things are absolutely amazing. But just at least getting a shotgun mic so you're not relying on the in-camera microphone, which is terrible, to get your audio, because you never know when you're going to get somebody who wants you to do an interview, talking pieces. I have a lot of realtors who want to talk in their videos. At the very least, you can get into an entry-level shotgun microphone just like this one. It's also great for vlogging, run and gun style stuff. Would definitely suggest having one of these regardless. And then the next thing you will want to look into after you get a shotgun microphone that's a little bit more versatile, a little bit better for just use cases as far as interviews and stuff like that, is lavalier microphones. So that's actually what I'm wearing right now, is a lavalier mic. That's what I'm filming on. And these things are extremely versatile, super easy to mount. And you guys have to remember with microphones too, that when you're creating a video, 50% of what they are consuming is audio. So if you've ever seen anything on YouTube, movies, short films, any type of video, that even if the video is shot in 8K, perfect $50,000 camera, $20,000 lens, and the audio is bad, you're not gonna wanna watch that film. That's how important audio is between sound design, music choice, and audio that you are feeding into your camera is so important. And the last piece that I'll just throw in there that you need as a videographer as well as photographer, which I'm sure you already have, it's the first thing most people buy, is a tripod. I'm using a more professional tripod right now, but these tripods, I think I purchased this one on Amazon for like 50 or 60 bucks. Again, I've had this basically my entire career. It's worked great. It breaks off into a monopod if I just want to take this one off, which is awesome. But yeah, get yourself a good tripod. Don't get anything too flimsy or too cheap because you will regret it later on. Spend 50 or 60 bucks. Don't get one of the $20 ones because that thing will break on you. You don't want it falling with your camera on it. It's not worth the $20 you're saving. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Please consider liking and subscribing, as it allows me to get into the YouTube algorithm and do my thing. And I hope to be able to see you guys do your thing too. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.